Hey guys, it's Katie at scrappingkatie.ctmh.com, and I am joining the creative design team girls to bring you a video collaboration featuring fancy folds. So here is a look at a card I made previously. We're going to make a version of this card. So you just pinch together that butterfly and it opens right up. So the ones that we're going to make today is featuring the Mix Ends paper packet from Close to My Heart. And I'm going to show you these beautiful patterns as well as the colors that you get. So you get this lilac color and it's got a backside, which is always a different pattern. You've got linen, which is a real light, subtle gray. You've got canary, which is this beautiful yellow. And then you've got sapphire, which is a bold pattern. I just love that one. And then you've got this mint polka dot, and the back side is kind of some large floral pieces. And then you've got this smoothie and peach butterfly pattern. So I'm going to be using the peach butterfly and the canary yellow. And the object of Mix Ends is so it goes with almost everything. So I'm also going to use a small piece of holographic paper and then pull in some Seize the Day here in just a second. So how I created this card was I created some notches using the Art Philosophy Cricut cartridge, a butterfly from the Artbooking, and then just a basic shape. And so to walk you through just a little bit of the process is I took that Art Philosophy piece that had those notches, and those are meant for ribbon, I'm believing. And so you just slice that, and I took, or contoured, and I just took away all the pieces except that little notch, which will serve as the slit that my butterfly will fit through. The next thing I wanted to do was make sure that my butterfly would fit through that. So I lined my butterfly up to make sure that the slit was long enough. And then by creating a rectangle that was long enough to be a tri-fold card, I lined that notch up over that rectangle. I'm going to do it for the square just for illustration purposes, but I lined it up and then I'm going to slice it out of that square. So by grabbing those two pieces, I can highlight them and then choose the slice feature in Design Space, and it basically slices that notch out of that square. And so that's how I got that card front, and then I added score lines to make it a tri-fold. So I will link this Design Space file down in the description, and as long as you have the Artbooking and Art Philosophy Cricut cartridges, you'll be able to make your own version of this card. So I'm going to delete these unnecessary images, and then we can get started cutting down the pieces of paper and getting those on the Cricut mat. So again, I've got this butterfly, the canary, the holographic paper, and then I want to pull in what will represent that blue square that is on my tablet screen. And I am going to use Seize the Day. And then I'm going to combine a bunch of images on that one Cricut mat, which makes it really easy to cut. So I'm just selecting the image, clicking the three dots, moving that object to that first Cricut mat. And unlike my other tutorials where I've shown you how to do this one, since you do have that long piece over to the left, the easiest thing to do is just line these up on definite measurement lines. And what I mean by that is those butterflies are lined up on 3-inch lines, and then this square, I'm going to move it and line it up at the 6-inch line. And so that's going to make it easy for me to line up my pre-cut pieces of paper on my Cricut mat and know that those images will be cut in those spaces allotted. So I've got that first butterfly in the first 3 inches. The second butterfly will be cut out of the second 3 inches, and then that square lined up at the 6-inch mark. So I'm going to start cutting these down to size. Let me zoom out for you. And I just love that canary paper. I can see that this paper could be easily used as a 12 by 12 piece. It's just so bright. I wanted to use it just to kind of bring in some dimension to that top piece of the butterfly. Even though it's pretty intricate cut, I just didn't want it to be plain cardstock. So on that square piece, I realized that my striped piece from Seize the Day is not quite large enough. So I'm going to pull another piece and I'm going to cut it down to 5 by 5. The square piece isn't actually square, and it's not going to quite use that full 5 by 5, but it'll be close enough. Again, I love how the mix ends match perfectly with Seize the Day colors. And so I'm going to get these all stuck down on my Cricut mat. The holographic, remember, is going to go at the top. That canary is going to be lined up at the 3-inch mark, and then that stripe is going to be lined up right under the 6-inch mark. And you can kind of play with your images again just to make sure. So I've sent that through my Cricut Maker, and now I'm just going to get all these images off my Cricut mat so we can start creating. And so I've got all my images. I did create that fold where that bottom flap doesn't quite go all the way to the score line. That makes it easy for it to fold and so it won't bulk up. To adhere the butterfly layers together, I'm just using liquid glass. I mainly want just the middle part of that butterfly and just a little bit of the wings to be attached. And I'm just using a tiny paintbrush to kind of get that liquid glass that seeped out off of the butterfly. And then I'm going to use my tweezers to kind of hold those together. I'm just going to adhere this front panel on that card base. And this was designed where the notch will line up perfectly, and then there'll be about 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. Now we're going to decorate the inside. And much like my other card that I've already done, I'm going to use the stamp set Sending Sunshine. On this particular one, I'm going to cut a white daisy piece of cardstock. And I believe this measures 3 1/4 by 3 3/4, and that's what I'm going to use to stamp that cute little girl on there, as well as the cloud and the inside sentiment. The girl is going to be inked up in pewter ink, and I decided not to color her. I just kind of want her in the background. I almost second generation stamped her, but decided not to. On the cloud, it's a watercolor cloud, so I am going to bring some color into the inside of the card by using the mint ink pad. And I just pulled the zip strip, which is the informational strip on our B&T for the Seize the Day, and found that mint was definitely a color that went with that. And then for the inside sentiment, I'm going to use the word you. And then again, that pewter ink, and I'm going to ink that up and stamp that in the middle of that cloud. And then so for my well wishes for the recipient, I could either write on this piece or I can write on that bottom panel of the butterfly background and texture paper. So now I'm going to adhere my butterfly down. You have to make sure that it's placed in a way that that slit will go over the butterfly. So I just lined it up, and then I'll mark that with my pencil. Before doing that, I'm going to add some clear shimmer brush all around that canary background and texture paper, just to add a little bit of sparkle. And then again, I'm going to use liquid glass just on that piece of the butterfly once the wings are folded up. And I'm going to adhere that down. You don't want to use too much, because here in just a second I'm going to flatten that butterfly to make sure it's really adhered, and you don't want it sticking on that card front. So now I'm going to stamp the outside sentiment, which is thinking, and that's what I'm going to ink that up in pewter and then clean that off. And then the second half to that sentiment is of, and so I'm going to stamp that down. And then there you have it. I really thought that the card needed something else, so I'm going to look at it a couple of times and decide to add more stamped images, again from the Sending Sunshine stamp set. I want to add something to that larger pink. It's a peach stripe. So I've got 3 little hearts, and I've pulled out my peach ink pad, and I'm just going to random stamp those little bitty hearts all over that peach stripe. To make sure that some of the images go off the stripe, I'm just using a piece of notebook. It's like a notepad paper, and to make sure that those go off but not on any of the other lines. So I closed that up and decided I wanted something else. So there is a heart border in that stamp set, and I'm going to ink it up in pewter and then stamp that down on that gray linen stripe at the very top. And after I close this up, I'm pretty much happy with this card. You could do a lot more if you wanted to, but it's really not necessary. And again, it's a fun fold that's created, and I will link that down below. Your next stop is going to be the very talented Andrea Sherman, and I will link her YouTube video down below as well. Don't forget to subscribe and sign up for notifications.